The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
This episode is brought to you by The Arena. The Arena focuses on helping law enforcement and security professionals achieve their ultimate work experience, curriculum, and fitness goals. Visit thearenatoronto.com.
Well, what's up, everyone? Hope you're having a fantastic day today. Welcome to an episode of
The Protector's DNA. What would you do?
And today, in What Would You Do, we're going to talk about a situation that took place in the Brampton Center. And for those listening around the world, that is a location located in the Mississauga/Brampton area. I'm going to read you the report, and then we're going to go into a video because we have been asked, and we do get asked these requests to analyze videos. So, a shocking video shows a violent confrontation that unfolded at Brampton Center in Brampton this week, where mall security went head-to-head with thieves caught in the act of a diamond store smash and grab robbery. The incident reportedly occurred on Wednesday, November 8th at the White Carat Co diamond store. In the clip, a pair of men in hoodies and masks can be seen in the store. One of them wearing a gray sweatshirt can be seen smashing display cases with a hammer before being confronted by mall security guards. As several guards swarmed the entrance of the store, one of the alleged thieves climbs up the display case, wielding a hammer, and appeared ready to swing it at security staff before one guard rushed in to tackle the assailant. Now, BlogTO contacted Brampton City Center Security Office via phone on Thursday morning. Through representatives were unable to discover any information about the incident. Disclose, I apologize. They redirected the inquiry to mall owner Morgard, which has provided the following statement. Last night, an attempted robbery occurred on our premises. Our security team's quick response ensured that nobody was injured, while the Peel Regional Police arrived on site shortly after and made an arrest. Peel Police confirmed to BlogTO that 3 suspects are alleged to have participated in the robbery. One of the men arrested on the scene was charged with robbery and disguised with intent, while the other 2 suspects are at large after fleeing with what police describe as a substantial quantity of jewelry. The accused was held for a bail hearing, and police are seeking information about the other 2 suspects. No descriptions have been provided. To be able to dissect this video, we brought in Expert Witness, President of Stay Safe, CEO, the man, Steve Summerville. How are you doing today?
Constantine, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Amazing,
Good,
amazing.
good.
I'm very happy you're here, Steve.
Thank you.
I truly, truly enjoy and value your overall look and perception on looking at situations. You have a policing background.
I do, almost 24 years. That's right.
That's right, which also gives you another layer of added skills when you're looking at something in a situation. Yeah. And, you know, I did take a look at this video, Steve. We're going to look at it now live with you.
Great.
And, you know, there's a lot to unpack in this. And I know a lot of people on social media have been saying things like, did the security perform their jobs? Right? Were they effective? Could they have done something better? Some have critiqued it. You are always going to have someone that's going to critique and point flaws out. But to me, like, I'm not sure if I should hold my personal, you know, review of what happened of the place right now. Well, I'll hold that towards the end.
All right.
But I do want you to see it. We have with us the amazing Matthew, our producer, who's going to be putting on the video. So, Steve, anything that you want to see before we watch this?
No, open mind. Let's not be biased. Let's just see what licensed security in this province at times have to deal with. In my view, it's humble. It's a very violent encounter. There's weapons, and there's also the virtual unknown. Okay. And security in our midst, they put themselves at risk, as I view it. They engaged, the perpetrators, and they, I think they, well, I'm going to go on the record right now. I think they did a remarkable job, and I think they require some public applause for what they did. And I think there's a lot of risks that they could have been exposed to. Let's run the video. Let's take a look.
Amazing. Let's do it. Matthew, if you can kick that video on, please. And Steve, why don't we do this? While we're watching this, if you can just maybe in your deep
Yeah, we can stop right there for 1 sec, please.
Yeah, give us a little pause there.
Yeah, what you've got here is you have an active robber in process, and he's displayed a very aggressive weapon, that being a hammer, breaking cases, showcases. And at this point, you're going to see 3 security guards enter the store, enter the White Carat Company store, and start to verbally engage the perpetrator. Not caught in this particular video snippet is other participants. There is actually 2 other suspects that were involved. So essentially, you're entering a room with 3 suspects. You don't know if they're armed. There is 1 display of a hammer. There's another video we'll see shortly where you see actually 2 perpetrators, actually both using hammers. So there's 2 people armed. And I don't believe security knew that when they entered the room. But right at the get-go, you see likely a lead guard, in a sense, starting to verbally engage the individual with what appears to be an intent to stop him and arrest him.
Okay.
Robbery.
Okay. Steve, when we're watching the video, for those that are listening, and it may be difficult for them to visualize it, but can you narrate play-by-play what's happening while we're watching?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Take it away, Matthew.
You have here some verbal. And even stop right there for 1 sec. You see the hammer, just a far clip, right clip. You see the edge of the hammer. It's raised above the person's shoulder, extended. That would be primarily a threat cue. Let me just pump in here one thing. Here we are looking at a security review, but as a former police officer, former instructor at the Ontario Police College, Constantine, I point out to you that sort of dynamic, that behavior would be in the area on a use of force model called serious bodily harm and death. That likely would lead to a firearm being pulled and potentially a discharge with a weapon, others shoot the perpetrator.
Right.
A lot of people say, oh, well, what about pepper spray? What about taser? What about batons? Well, first of all, pepper spray is not well suited in an environment within an inside environment.
Yeah, closed environment, yeah.
You got it. Secondly, tasers are very unpredictable, very hard in a quick setting to be able to discharge or deploy, I should say, quickly and effectively. And with batons, you're basically looking at the precision of your baton and the ability of yourself to be able to use that weapon the way it's designed. But to disarm a person with that, there would be a lot of skeptics that say that's not a reasonable expectation, even of police officers. Before we progress, you've got security officers here. From what I could see in the video, sir, they are not provided batons. These security guards working at Brampton Center are in the situation here virtually unarmed themselves.
Okay, Matt, go back a couple of frames just so we could, so the people watching this right now, they can see this. The other thing that we're noticing is you can see that the security see the weapon.
Yes.
Now, again, we're not doing a comparison here, but if it's safe to say, Steve, that if police had approached the situation, they may have, again, had more distance maybe in the situation and potentially would have drawn their guns out. Would that be something that
yeah, police would be trained to look at the range or how close I am, proxemics, to you and the perpetrator. They probably would try to prevent being within touching distance, or if a person was to move quickly, spontaneously towards you, that would be behavior trying to be mitigated or prevented, if you will. But here, security, not certain what their training is, but they walked in rather close. It's kind of hard to tell from that video, but I'd say within maybe 4 to 6 feet apart.
Yes.
An estimate from this particular camera view. These guards are at risk. And I even noticed both guards, despite a weapon displayed, the guard there, the female, I believe, has her hands at the side. That would probably not be a remarkably safe thing to do. And secondly, the guard in front, I'm not really certain if he senses the risk that he's currently being exposed to. But regardless, he still continued in a meaningful dialogue trying to just persuade this person to drop the weapon.
Okay. Go ahead, Matt.
You see the hammer there being displayed. Very good shot of it there. Now, you have another security colleague come in. You have 3 security officers.
And we see actually right now...
Yeah, stop right there. You now have... Now, there's actually 4 security officers in sight and view. On the far left person, dark disguise, you see basically that is a second adversary or second person. That person is seen in another video fleeing the store after there's an arrest made. But there again, you don't know what you don't know in these situations. I don't know if you're armed with a firearm or a knife, sharp-edged weapon. Hammers have been certainly used and produced. That's what smashed the counters, the display counters. But despite that, and seeing that visual and the potential risk, you still got security moving forward to deal with this person. But you notice what the person's starting to do. He's starting to move onto the counter, high road. And if you let the video run, you'll see how this creates a different risk profile for the security officers. All right, stop there. Take a look at it. Standing on the counter, standing, well above, high road, if you will, high ground. A tactical advantage, perhaps, but there are not many training scenarios that I'm aware of where you're actually taught, policing involved, included, where you'd be given reasonable skill sets or experience to deal with a person that's standing above you like that.
I heard comments of people saying, well, why couldn't the security just try to take out his legs? Well, he could very easily move back and take that hammer and slam it right on their heads.
You got it.
Very easily.
That would be the explanation for it. And again, if you were equipped with a baton, an intermediate baton, you would be able to potentially administer a strike to the lower legs to cause the dysfunction, cause the person to drop.
Right.
But in order to do it with your hands, you would have to close the gap. You have to close the distance to be able to touch it. Unfortunately, that would expose you to a weapon strike with a hammer.
Right.
That would not be prudent. That would be risky behavior.
Right, right.
But you've got a situation here where this suspect, or now the accused before the court, is approaching security with a weapon in his right hand. Let's see how this unfolds.
Good.
Projected, by the way, stop right there. Couple of things. First of all, this is right above his shoulder. That is a striking. That's the typical Hollywood depiction of an overhand strike.
Right.
Security did back off a little bit in this case, and that's prudent. But you notice the lady there in front, security, she's directing citizens
to stop recording, right?
Yeah, out of the way. Get back up, back up. That's my view of it. And with that, that is a duty of care component. So not only are you thinking about your own risk, you're thinking about potential risk to other people around you. That meets the criteria huge of security provision in this province. Protect people and assets.
That's right.
And this lady certainly did that. So kudos to that security officer. Whether she was trained to do that, she took steps to, advise people to back up for safety purposes.
Okay.
There's another piece of legislation we might need to look at. It's occupational health and safety. And the OHSA, it's legislation. It's just not best practice. And if you feel that you're exposed to risk in the workplace, you have a right to remove yourself from that risk. You can refuse the work component. I think that would be reasonable in the context you have not provided weapons or training, batons to me to defend. You've got a person producing a weapon. It would be reasonable for these officers to back off and literally just observe and report. These folks did not do that.
That's very, very interesting. Especially, I do know, like, when you have also settings, like unionized settings, they're very big on, is there a skill applied for someone to enter something to do in a safe way, right? And this would be under that completely.
Oh, wow. This is a surreal experience for them. Likely they've never had a similar experience to this in their careers, I would think. And I'm not really certain of any training matrix they would have been presented or provided, if you will, to exercise judgment in this setting.
But they're not thinking, now all they're thinking of is control the situation, protect the environment.
Control the situation, protect people, and you're going to see in a minute another security guard comes in and does something remarkably successful.
Okay.
Jumps down, and there's a stop there. You have a security officer running, and I would call this like similar to like a running football tackle.
Yes.
It's probably not, at least in your mind side, and creates the dynamic of what's occurring.
Right.
But a football tackle, and you're going to see in a second, it is effective.
Right.
It works. Now, this subject control was successful without the administration of a blow or a strike.
Right.
Literally just grabbed the hell of him and threw him to the floor. Let's take a look. Down he goes. Struggle. 4 people on him. Down to the ground. Stop.
Yeah, the hammer flies out.
And the hammer flies out. So the weapon is now being dislodged.
Right.
But there's also the perception and potential that the suspect still has another weapon on him, so the hands must be controlled. If these guards have received subject restraint training, i.e. handcuff training, that would be primarily a major area that they need to focus in on. But as there's distraction with the guards, as you see, the one subject is just about to come out the door and leave the door, run away from the scene, if you will, and exits to the right.
Right.
Try to hold on to him.
And he's gone.
He's gone. A second individual, that person there, also exited the scene. So actually there was 3 subjects in total. 2 escaped, 1 was arrested. And I wouldn't be surprised to see if through investigation, probably another subject or 2 are arrested in the near future.
Right. So the individual with the weapon was apprehended.
Yes.
And charged. And from what we understand right now, the 2 other individuals are potentially out and about.
Yes.
There has been some commentary. Of course, people will comment on everything. Why didn't the security try to apprehend the other 2, right? And there's an element, Steve, where I think it's important to note is that if the highest level of aggressor is basically the individual with the hammer, my thing would be is take out the most impactful threat.
If you can.
If you can.
If you can. Keep in mind, there is no legal requirement or expectation to engage that. Security here would have been well within the right, sir, to back off, observe, report, and not interfere with potential assault upon themselves. They chose not to. So as I said...
this is truly an above and beyond...
Oh, I believe it is.
...situation here. Because it could have gone... The reality is this. It could have gone very bad.
Could have. There's that risk. And I say I wasn't going to put you on the spot. I will put you on the spot as a
Yes.
business owner.
Yes.
You're an owner of a company that hires security professionals to apply their services in the community for the same reason, which is to protect people and assets. What would you expect one of your guards to do in a similar circumstance? What would be reasonable?
Right. So
And the world is listening to your response.
100%. So a lot of times I'm very, very open and loose-lipped on this about
Yes, you are.
about the importance of we do what we do because we're identified as protectors.
Yes.
Because we are here to help human life and to protect asset. That's what our jobs are for. That's why we entered the field. In a situation like this, when I first watched it, Steve, and now you're going to hear my response, I actually appreciated what happened and what they did. And my expectation would be that of our people is that they would look to find ways to do a safe takedown or engagement. In this situation here, I felt that what happened there, I would expect our people to do the same thing. What I would probably give them more, what I would probably throw if I was going to throw any critique in here, is to provide more distance to yourself and the individual. Look, at the end of the day, there was an opening, and the opening happened when the individual did the tackle. And I don't think that guy saw them. I don't see him came in through there.
He came in very, very quickly, like a raptor sort of technique.
That's
Came off
right.
to the right, and he engaged him quickly. So I would be surprised. I would not be surprised, I should say, that person had a football background. Because that's very consistent with, dumping the quarterback, if you will.
But what would make me more confident, Steve, is if I know my people have training, and it's not just like once in a blue moon training. It's active, regular training.
Right.
And they're familiar. I'd feel very confident in them creating a reaction.
Sure.
But at the same time, what happened here is, like, you said something that was very key. And this is something to consider, even for myself. You stated that police would have taken a different approach, potentially. They would have created even more distance, but they also have tools that we in security don't.
That's correct.
Right? So that begs to kind of ask then is like, what is necessary to make the job effective, right? We can say obviously that the spray would obviously backfire and potentially...
Yes. You contaminate the entire environment, including yourself, your own environment. But I just want to say here that police, to my knowledge, I would state this under oath, would not be trained or would not be expected to go hand to hand in that sort of situation.
Is it because they don't have the training for that?
No, it's because you're very well aware of your environmental awareness and the risk portrayed.
Right.
And police are taught in circumstances such as this, your safety is paramount. You need to really think about what you're doing, and going hand to hand with the person who's wielding a hammer. The risk and the requirement for success is extreme, and there's potential for failure. For that reason, you would use a distance-oriented weapon.
Right.
Ideally, police would attempt to contain or isolate a situation, but with people inside the store, I don't know if the staff was in the store or not. I don't know if the staff fled or whichever. I didn't see anyone there representing to be a staff member. But let's just say there's a person hiding in the back. I don't know what the configuration of the store would be. I would be likely more familiar with that if I worked at the Brampton Mall. But if the staff is inside the store, I also have that duty of care component where I need to protect people inside that premise. So that could be another consideration. But your security, they engage the suspect hand to hand. That's something police wouldn't do despite their training.
Right.
And the tools.
Right.
And I'm not certain, I have not seen the public viewpoint on this scrutiny or the criticism or the skepticism, if you will. But I think here is remarkable applause. And these people need to be really recognized for what they did.
I agree. And Steve, it's also very well known that there's many, many people that work in security that would have literally either A, not done nothing because they don't have any training or skill set to do so, or based purely out of fear, they would have froze.
Yes, they could have. Yes, they could have.
So this does remind us and does wake up everyone in the industry that at any given moment, at any given time, you could be doing a patrol and something like this just takes out. And really, you are only as good as your training.
You are, and your awareness.
And your awareness.
You see, sometimes training makes you aware of your limitations.
Right.
If you're not trained, you don't know what you don't know, perhaps. Right. But I'm not suggesting here that these guards did anything wrong. They did put themselves at risk.
Right.
And you need a bit of a check and balance. You might get home a little bit later, look at the video, and like, wow, I exposed myself to that. There could be some trauma associated with that experience. But I can say this categorically. I've looked at the video a few times prior to coming here today. I did not see any excessive force. I did not see any abusive process. I did not see any strikes being administered on the person after he was grounded. Essentially a ground and hold. That to me is professional. It's extremely professional. It speaks volumes to the nature, the quality of the guards that were working this contract.
What also makes them remarkable, Steve, is that, let's be very real here, the wages of security are not those of a police officer.
No, they're not, sir.
And we also know that many security entities in Ontario, I can't really speak to the US right now, but I can tell you in Ontario, they do not pay livable wages.
No, they don't.
Okay,
Especially in Toronto.
that's right. So when you do have guards that have literally put their lives at risk here and have been able to get a successful outcome, that's an even more situation to congratulate them, because I know so many people that would state the comment, I do not get paid enough to do that.
Right. By the way, I would not criticize that.
Okay.
I would not hold you accountable to that, because that's valid. That's accurate. It's not an erroneous statement. And you asked me to do the best I can without putting myself out on the limb.
Right.
And if I do, that's perhaps my own character, my own profile. But to expect a security guard to do that with all circumstances, I don't want that to come across as an unrealistic expectation of our security presence in Ontario. This is an anomaly. This is a situation that I think one case by case we need to look at and review. And I don't think you're going to get a police spokesperson to come forward to want to say, oh, we advocate for security to do this, because again, we don't want good people trying to do the right thing. We've had security death. We had a security officer killed recently, the Pickering Casino. We had, out in the western part of Toronto, we had a security guard just within the last couple of weeks of this broadcast stabbed at work. So there's a lot of risk out there.
So Steve, if your expectation is that I wouldn't expect security to kind of put themselves in this kind of situation, what would you say to the client that has hired the security company and says, no, I actually expect you to deal with the problem, deal with the situation?
I think that'd be an unrealistic expectation.
Okay.
Because they're citizens, just like me and you.
Right.
They're just permitted by licensing. Licensing ensures the training and the validation of their background. They should be exposed to no more risk than you. And when most people are running for the door and they think security should deal with it, sometimes security should be running for the door.
Right.
I have seen some tragic situations, sir, where security have tried to do the right thing, and it was fatal. It was fatal in terms of the consequence. I'm very, very happy, and I won't speak to any religious connotation, but to whatever you believe in, I pray that it always protects you, guides you.
Right.
And in this particular case, there's also people saying, that's just product. What are you doing? They're insured, let it go. And you've heard that criticism too. Why are you putting yourself out there? But are you suicidal? Like you're not thinking about your safety, and you're going to get hurt for what? For your paycheck? And so that's that criticism.
Right.
But I think the community as a whole are getting very, very tired of the amount of violence and the amount of crime that's occurring. Retail Council of Canada has recently made statements that the slippage, if you will, or the loss issues associated product is at an alarming all-time rate. There is desperation, there's despair. That seems to be someone trying to explain the reason for shoplifting and robbery such as this. I don't know. Personally, I'm an advocate of that defense.
Well, I'll tell you, Steve, we've noticed as an organization, we have seen our requests surge on a tactical side because of what's experiencing. One of our clients called us because the other day, one of the residents was going to their homes in a very influential neighborhood, and they got cracked in the back of the head.
There you go.
And now it's like, now this has caused fear for the residences, and they're like, what do we do here? And they've also been able to recognize, what we can do as an organization from the training that we provide and the people that we represent to kind of do the job. But it is, for anyone out there that thinks that the world is not changing, it is changing. It's getting scary out there. And some people, I think, Steve, are refusing to believe it.
Well, I just came back a couple of days ago. I just taught a week course in Ottawa at the Royal Ottawa Hospital for clinicians, healthcare workers, people who deal with mental health community, protect them against violence.
Okay.
And where we go for help and where we go for assistance, a lot of people are being overwhelmed, assaulted. So provide them some skill sets. You're only good at your training, and your training only makes you aware as to what limitations you may or may not have.
Right.
But in this particular case, I don't know your Brampton Center in-house security if they're equipped with vests or penetration vests. In other words, to prevent being stabbed. Where they have gloves. I'm not sure.
So this is good, Steve, where we're going here right now.
Yeah.
So because the Brampton Center is only one little small piece of the entire province, right? For those entities that have their personnel working in environments, any environment, mall, industrial, commercial, whatever, to avoid something like this, if there's a couple of things that you can throw out there for agencies listening right now to make sure that the people that you're putting in place, because at the end of the day, we have people that are leaving here and going to their homes at night.
They are.
Right. So,
They are.
so that to me is a huge part of what we're about to hear.
Right.
But what would be outside of, which I do know your whole business is built around training.
It is. And I want to be careful. Let me preface something too. I'm not going to suggest what I'm about to suggest to say, hey, acquired training, there's a cost to it, and this will take you to the next level. That would be very self-serving and very partisan. I won't do that. I won't soil myself in your podcast.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is good people to do jobs. If you're working at a construction site, you need appropriate footwear. You need hard hat. You would need, at certain times, you need a vest to eliminate you in low light situations. That's basically health and safety considerations. To work within an environment where you're potentially exposed to violence, you would need essentially tools to help you, and not necessarily suggest that you're expected or legislated to use them, but you would need some form of safety equipment. And I would arguably, in environments such as this, a vest, a bulletproof vest would be appropriate. A baton, intermediate baton, for purposes of defense, not offense, to protect yourself, to keep situations at bay, to keep you away from me, to allow me to administer strikes to certain parts of your body, to keep you away, keep distance, to protect you, clients, members of the public. And restraint mechanisms, i.e. handcuffs, temporary measures to hold people until the police resources to attend. That would be the basics. Perhaps sharp-edged weapons defense, to let you realize in close quarter situations where there's nowhere to go, if somebody raises their hand to, and by the way, a hammer could also be deemed to be a sharp-edged weapon or a blunt object, but reasonable steps to get yourself out of harm's way. Because without that, you have no modicum of safety. You have no idea of regional context and content training. And I think that would put you at a completely strong disadvantage. In this particular case, I'm not certain the mall has provided that training.
Okay.
I think people out there, perhaps the clients, perhaps the mall themselves might say, hey, what are you equipping with our security? What are giving our team, we take some ownership in the safety and the health of all of our people, give these people the tools to stop and protect us. I would hope that not only this jewelry store, but I see there in the video, the Bay and all these stores say globally to our mall here that we wish to make certain our people are protected and reasonably so. Okay. And if not, then why not? Okay. What do we need to make this work?
I like that.
Yeah.
Steve, that's great. Go on. Yes.
There's a second video that shows more dynamic of this particular. I like to look at that if we may.
Before we go to the second video, is there any other closing words you'd like to say other than for the individuals that did this job, congratulations?
I do. I'd like to meet these people, shake their hand. You did a good job. And I hope that they are recognized and validated for what they did. Now, there's some people too that might say, well, there's one verbiage in there when you hear the person swear. Drop the effing hammer. Right. Comments on that. What do we think about that? Well, you're not dealing with mental health people. You're not dealing with people that you have the opportunity or the means to de-escalate. Right. To use empathy. Right. There is a very, very strong threat, very pronounced threat, very obvious threat to me. I'm not suggesting that any time I swear at you that would meet this conditional requirement, but it's also a way to administer the urgency of my request. You need to drop this effing weapon. You need to do it now. Right. You put that out there. So that certainly don't look at that as a discipline-related issue. Right. I'm not offended by that personally.
Neither am I. Neither am I. You know, it's a way to get the attention of someone.
Well, I think it would. Yeah. I think it would. But people, that's not a way you expect a security officer to conduct themselves. Yeah. And I'd say to you, well, sir or ma'am, have you ever been threatened with a hammer? Yes. And what would you say to a person? Right. Are you really concerned about your language in that moment or your personal safety? Exactly. So I think common sense should dictate people's response. But a lot of people have struggled with that at times as well.
100%.
Why don't we look at the second video?
Let's do this. So this is the little bonus.
The violence prior to security arrival. I think this should open up the viewer's eyes as to what we were dealing with.
Do you want to describe it all? Or we're just going to jump in?
Well, we can jump in and take a look.
All right, let's jump in. And Steve, if you can do it in that beautiful radio broadcast voice, narrate what we're, for those that are only listening.
Yes, on Spotify or
exactly.
Whatever. You got it.
All right, do it up, Matt. Okay, so this is the same situation, but a different angle.
From a different angle, different recording device. And once it gets a little closer, you're going to see here what I call the smash. All the cases, you see two people really going at it with weapons in their hands.
The one thing that when I first saw this video, while we're seeing this happening, is they're very brave.
They're very brazen.
Yeah, this is happening during the day.
They're very brazen. This is not to be secretive. It's shock and awe. You see a crowbar there is being used as well? Right. Prying away, filling up bags.
And they literally, they could care less about their surroundings.
Very brazen. They don't care if you're recording them. Hence, they're concealed. Their faces are concealed. They have hoodies on. Their faces are covered. Kind of hard to identify unless you knew them or recognized them somehow. I think identity could be an issue. The fact that one has been arrested is a little bit easier to identify.
Right.
Now you see security showing up on the scene, and this is the first. Stop right there, Matthew. What you have got to be aware is security often haven't had the luxury of what you've just seen. So you see that dynamic. You see a person with hard objects in their hands, hammers, crowbars, and you're not walking in with any of those tools at level of awareness. So security entered the facility, the White diamond store, by not really knowing what they're walking into.
Yes.
There's a risk.
Right.
As opposed to trying to, now one lady who's standing in front, she's getting a bit of a bird's eye view, but I don't see any communications with her colleague. They also went in, so I'm not certain that was dismissive or perhaps the experience, she didn't really know what to do in that moment.
Right.
I think that'd be useful information if I saw something before I permit you to enter.
Right.
I'd point out a few things for your consideration.
Right. No,
All right.
that's good.
Let's take a look, please. Forward here. You see all the crowd?
Yes.
There's just a pan there of all the crowd behind. One female security officer directs them because people are drawn to an event.
That's right.
Now you can hear other security showing up, a little bit of distance. There's a weapon, drop the weapon, drop the hammer. And the person here with the cell phone is coming around the corner. You'll see a bit of bird's eye view in a second. A bit of backing up, and then stop right there. What that was comparable to the other video, that was the scene where the suspect that was apprehended jumped up on the counter. So naturally, the very appropriate response would be to disengage, create distance between me and you. Because of the proximity of the weapon and because you're a high ground opportunity. That's just a comparison of the video. But it will progress in a second here. You're going to see again just the camera span around. Yeah, please run it, Matthew. There he goes, the arrest, and you see the one suspect.
He takes off.
He takes off, and the second suspect, there he goes.
Right. Right.
So stop there. The video is interesting in the sense you have a number of people holding the person down.
Yes. No
allegations, as I could see, of excessive force or inappropriate blows. And there's people who will be advocates for anyone who's arrested, despite the violence they portray.
Right.
The person's grounded. Yeah, he's not able in that moment to administer violence to you. And I didn't see any violence administered to him. He was basically held down on the ground in what we call a grounding position, usually stomach down. That's consistent with law enforcement training. It's consistent with security training. And again, guards exposed to this sort of situation, that level of violence, they didn't overreact. They did not overreact. And there is no exhibition here of excessive force or anything that would make anyone perhaps think that something was done wrong. Run it through, Matthew. It's just about finished. And that's very consistent with the struggle to get control of a person's hands. But what I don't see, and I can't see if they have handcuffs. And I didn't see enough of the video to be able to really fully acknowledge that. Now, so we have licensed security.
Yes.
Doing what a lot of the community perhaps takes for granted.
Right.
But they put themselves out there.
Okay.
And I think these professionals, Bramley, deserve our thanks and our recognition.
Now, do we have any idea who this security group was?
They're in-house.
Okay, they're
not
security.
They're not third party. They're not contracted.
Okay, I see.
They're Bramley City Security. So they're
okay.
contained in-house by the mall. I'm assuming they're trained by the mall.
Okay.
And they have protocols and procedures and policies expected to be adhered to. I'm not certain what their policy is in terms of responding to allegations of robbery or assault or crimes in progress.
Yes.
It would be interesting to see here if the policy and procedure was adhered to, or if there is a policy asking them to engage. It might be deemed to be inappropriate or unlawful if you've got a policy to ask citizens to knowingly expose themselves to violence.
Right.
I think the security officers likely acted out on their own doing the right thing. There's always a triage, Constantine, I always look at. When anybody does anything, was it first of all legal? Was it ethical? Was it moral? And sometimes good people have a hard time standing back, standing down, realizing, no, this is wrong, this has got to be stopped.
Okay.
I think it might fall within that category.
Okay. Okay. Well, look, that's amazing. And congratulations to those security who did successfully apprehend the individual.
Thumbs up.
And thank you.
Did well.
Thank you for that. You are protectors.
This is what this industry is about. That's that DNA, but good people doing the right thing despite risk being exposed to them.
That's right. Amazing. Well, we have right now also another clip, Steve. And this clip has nothing to do with what we just saw.
No, it doesn't. But
however, there's a little, would you say a little something slightly different on this one?
There is. Just to open up, and what we have, this is another mall. Stop it for 1 sec, Matthew. This is another mall in Scarborough. And similar, it was a smash and grab. And what you have here is citizens.
And this, by the way, also happened, I think it was in the same week?
This is today from the podcast we're filming. This was within the last 4 or 5 days. So 4 or 5 days ago from the date we're filming here.
Okay.
So this is current.
So this is a completely different
situation, different part of the GTA. Similar in the offense, you saw violence, and there's 2 people being arrested by citizens. Now, I'm not confusing security as citizens, but these are unlicensed people. And it's been argued that some of the people here were acting like a vigilante, or vigilantism that took place. Just people think, yeah, it ain't going to happen. I'm putting my hands on you. And there's going to be, you'll see out here played out, perhaps some aggressive or assertive behavior. I won't use that line of assaultive behavior, but it's my understanding, and I've yet to validate it, but my understanding is that 2 citizens here were charged by the attending police for assault and possibly forcible confinement.
Really?
So you have situations here where people think that they can take, I'm not saying they'll take the law into their own hands, perhaps they're thinking they're doing the right thing, making a citizen's arrest, but overextending that by using force, which becomes questionable. You yourself, despite arresting a perpetrator, can also be held accountable to the court system.
Okay.
Let me run it. I'll point out here what's happening.
All right, take a look.
A couple of perps holding there. You see a bit of head takedown. You've got 3 adults holding onto one. Stop there, Matthew, if you will. And you see just the positioning of the head. You've got a position of a limb. You have a foot, what appears to be on a lower extremity of the subject being held down. Run it again, Matthew. Thank you. And to the side and the back, you have a person, 2 people mounted and holding a person down with a little bit of pressure on the neck. Now, I can't speak to the content and context of what's running, a lot of people watching, but there again, this was citizens. It's called the Majestic Mall in Scarborough. That's the name of the mall.
Do they have security?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Certainly not within this particular segment. Stop there, please. But you're just seeing a scan there of, of the suspects, if you will, being held down, and a number of people have got involved. And I do understand that 2, possibly 3 of these citizens were charged and arrested. So like, think about that. You think you're doing the right thing, and suddenly now you're going to have to acquire a lawyer for legal defense. Where it goes and how it goes, I don't know.
Should they be charged, Steve?
Well, we're getting into this image now, aren't we, or this topic of debate of what is reasonable. By the way, a citizen, if you see an indictable offense, I'm talking about the criminal code, you have the authority as a citizen to make an arrest. You may make an arrest if you see an indictable offense occurring in your midst. A robbery or something like that would certainly be that process, but it's how you make the arrest.
Okay.
What you do, the extremities of what you do. You need to do just a minimal amount of force to get the job done. If you start to administer blows when the court might deem to be unreasonable or unnecessary, you're putting yourself into that area where you could be held accountable, i.e. criminally charged. So Steve, I'm that person that jumps in when I see a fight happen to stop it. But if wait a second, I'm going to get charged for trying to help somebody else. I'm not saying you will. I'm saying you could.
But even the possibility of it happening,
yes.
Then I mean, I would probably still do it because that's in my DNA. However, but the fact of the matter is that if that is a risk, someone that generally may want to help might be like, wait a second, I could have my life completely ruined, destroyed if I help out here.
You could very well, and there's not to mention the criminality. It could be the litigation afterwards. You realize certainly in this province, in this country, actually, if you where do you get involved in a situation like this? And you lay your hands. Certainly, you can face the criminality, but you can also face civil litigation. You could be sued personally, and you would have to come up with a defense and the funds to defend yourself for situation. You look at the premise. Yeah, but this person was a bad person. They made us. Yeah, but you overreached. You overstepped it, and 2 wrongs don't make a right, if you will. And I'm trying to be. I wouldn't probably go publicly say I do the same thing as you, but we'd probably do it together.
Yeah.
I just don't think that with the nature of who I am, I could stand by and see people be hurt, be assaulted, be offended, be stolen from. I would probably do something. However, I would make remarkable efforts to make certain what I did was within the confines of the law. And I would be able to articulate it. One of the things here in this case, and I always say this in my training courses, you got a CYA. You know what that represents, CYA?
That's right, cover your ass.
Yeah, also nowadays in 2023 means can you articulate?
That's right. And you know what? As a student, I should have said that. You led me right into your trap. You led me right into you.
I just did it and it worked. Thank goodness for the millions to see. But yeah, I'm not being a smartass when I say that. So what I'm saying is it's very human nature to reach out and lash out. But we got to think about that because there's same system that will hold these people accountable, hold you accountable for what you do.
Right. So
I didn't see any, and security are charged, police are charged commonly with excessive force or unlawful behavior. None there today in that video from Brampton Mall Center. I think applause. I can't see anything. I'll have to look at and scrutinize it again, but I saw nothing in the video, no evidence to suggest those guards do anything wrong.
Right.
Here, could be a different scenario. I haven't seen the full video scope of it, but I understand a couple of people are being held accountable.
Okay. Okay. Well, look, Steve, one of the things that I love about the segments that we're doing here is that, again, both situations, from a average citizen to someone working in security, you may be encountering a situation where you're going to see a fight or you're going to see something violent happening. And this second one here that we're watching, the reality is that, you know, it's normal for people to just observe, pull their phones out and record, right?
That's right.
And it's not an expectancy for anyone to say, go and help others, right? But the whole aspect of the Good Samaritan, right, where all that language comes from, the Good Samaritan, you know, it is nice to see people help. It is nice to see that, you know, and they're working as a community here. It seems, because they seem to be also speaking, it sounds like a similar language. I can't even pick what the language is.
I believe it's Tamil. But I could be wrong.
But yeah, it is nice to see that. Would you give any words of wisdom or advice for somebody that is a citizen that is approaching their day-to-day and something was to happen? What advice would you give them?
Other than going, first of all, you got to identify the risk that you're prepared to accept, to take. Anytime you physically engage a situation, you're putting yourself into a whole new layer or threshold of scrutiny. One you may not be prepared for, one you may not be prepared to defend. Please choose wisely. Please don't put yourself there. I'm more of an advocate for personal safety than I am for physical engagement. I'm not suggesting for a second a person assaults you or attacks you or one of your loved ones. But this is going out of the way to be perhaps an avenger, if you will be, or not a mercenary because you're compensated for that. But certainly in the scope of making decisions that you might learn to regret. The tolerance in the court system is not there to defend you, to say, oh, well, you were trying to help out in a situation and we're going to ignore this or we're going to forgive you. You could be held accountable, and I hate to see that good people putting themselves at risk because the layers of protection may not be there for you. I'd ask you to think wisely. But there again, in order to do what you got to do, you got to look at the consequence, and you have to be prepared to CYA, which means.
Can you articulate?
Yeah, there you go.
You heard it here.
There you go. He knows it. He knows
Steve,
it.
that's fantastic, and I do always appreciate and value your insight and your experience. Very, very wise words we heard today. I find that if anyone can apply some of the stuff that we heard today, I think that it can just create more safer environments. I do think people also just need to realize that, again, the world is not what it is, and it's continuously changing. And Steve, I agree. Like, you know, we hear inflation, we hear mortgage rates, we hear COVID and damages of lost businesses. We hear people financially in struggles. And I think this has to also be contributing to why things are happening, why car thefts are on the rise, and so forth. It just a lot of things are happening. So we do have to be very aware, if anything, just aware. If you're aware, that means you know it could happen. If it could happen, then you're going to have, maybe I'm going to walk in this environment with a little bit more, you know, awareness than just closing a blind eye that nothing could happen.
Well, we ever changed since COVID? Pandemic, it's really changed. Do you know people have lost their opportunity for employment, lost their jobs, businesses are shut down? Yes, it's created a whole new different level of need. As we don't need to look at the papers and scan to see what's going on, not only in North America, but throughout the world, conflict. And I won't get into any politics with that, but people are angry. People are taking the streets here in Toronto and demonstrating against what's going on in other parts of the world. And, you know, it's this issue of being sovereign, this issue of we're arguing over the rights, religious rights, and people are angry and frustrated. Also saw an article yesterday in the Toronto papers to indicate that 1 out of 10 people in the GTA are relying upon a food bank. Wow, man. And if you look at the numbers, roughly 10%, you're talking about 500,000 people. 500,000 people are starving, having a hard time. There's a lot of people who are homeless. And the homeless encampments, but I'm not suggesting that's any causation.
No, for sure.
Seeing that dynamic, but people are frustrated, people are angry, and you're getting different advocates for different sides. And the thing is, there seems to be a spike in crime. There's a spike in hate crime. There's a spike in property damage, a spike in theft, huge. And there was also another article from the Retail Business Council of Canada that Walmart and Costco are thinking of eliminating their, other than cashiers, You know, you can self-checkout. This looks to be limited because of slippage of people walking by with the product.
Wow, man.
So there seems to be a real strong push, and a lot sooner than later, the ability to be able to check yourself out, self-serve will be removed and eliminated, just to try to have a layer for protection. There's a number of product in the store, depending on what you're buying on. Razor blades, baby formula, they need to be locked down. You need a sales associate to be able to help you, and they'll walk that product to a cash. You're not allowed to walk it out yourself. So the world's changed.
Well, Steve, you're a big advocate, and I know about the power, like the books that you recommended, The Power of Kindness and Leading with Empathy. If I could throw out some words, and I'll obviously have you close it, but my words for people is that you don't know what people are going through.
No.
And, you know, have empathy as much as you possibly can coming into a situation, because sometimes just by smiling or greeting or saying, hi, my name is, can I, in your job function, or even just as general, you know, human civilians walking across, that could also change the outcome for someone and switch it. You know,
it is. And people are afraid. People struggle. And commonly, if a person commits a crime, they're trying to escape. So you may not be dealing with resistance. You could be dealing with a fight or flight response, fear.
Right.
And at that particular moment, some people do incredible things to get away, to flee. And I've seen people commit acts of violence who've never done an act of violence before in their life. Whatever the causation, motivation is, it is what it is in that sense. But good people who may not have that sense of reality in their life, you try to stop them, but you may not know what you're taking on. So in closing words, I'd ask you to be safe. Always be safe. Think about where you're at. Look at your environmental awareness. And to make certain whatever you do is calculated. It's not spontaneous, it's calculated. Have you thought the process through? Because sometimes it might be just as relevant, not criticism from what we saw, but relevant to sit back, provide some form of trying to identify the best you can and make certain nobody's hurt. Okay. I don't think they're right or wrong, but I think in Brampton, with what we saw, and it's got thousands and thousands of responses. People are interested. We need to look at what people did, what they calculated to do, and one person under arrest and nobody hurt.
Okay. Okay. Well, Steve, I want to thank you for your time. As always, you know, in this segment of What Would You Do, we were able to see this. For those of you listening, if you have experiences or seen video footages that you would like us to review, please send them our way. We'd be more than happy to take a look at them. And
we look forward to doing this again.
Exactly. Steve, thank you for your time.
Cheers. Be well.
And everyone, stay safe and have a fantastic week.
That's my tagline. Stay
safe. That's it. All right.
Cheers.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.